that I think that reflects the community. Part of my challenge as I travel and sharing the life of Lincoln is really demonstrating through his life to not only our older generations but our younger generations the importance of our history and the importance of patriotism and the importance of recognizing that what makes and has made our country what it is the same character that I believe Abraham Lincoln exhibits. And so as I portray, my challenge is to portray the aspect, the importance of perseverance, and the importance of being able to read and read well, which carries a person throughout his life. The importance of integrity and honesty. That is bedrock for communities to live together and trust one another, that aspect of integrity. Also that importance of humility and compassion. Often we don't relate those two qualities with leadership, but I think they're essential. After living a life in Kentucky and then moving to Indiana and finally to Illinois, my final real home aside from the White House, after having lost my mom, my sis, two of my four sons before my own death, and then, of course, my fourth son, Tad, afterwards. Having failed in business, having been involved in 12 elections from the year 1830 to 1860, I think my life did exemplify that aspect of perseverance, of not giving up, of integrity and honesty. And therefore, in 1860, with that election, and winning against three individuals, well-known individuals, one being Senator Douglas. By the way, did you know that back in Springfield in my young years, that he and I both courted Mary Todd? Did you know that? And so there was naturally a little bit of animosity between, maybe competition is the best word, between Mr. Senator Douglas and myself. But he was also running for the presidency in 1860, along with John Breckinridge and John Bell. Well, I did win that election. It was a damp, cold day in February when I was to leave my beloved Springfield. There had already been threats on my life, and because of that, it was decided that I should precede Mary and the boys to Washington City. On that cold, dreary day, we walked down to the train station. Eventually, we heard in the distance that familiar chug, 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 chug. And as it neared town, toot, the train was coming near. It pulled up into the front of the train station, steel against steel grinding as it came to a halt. Finally, it was time to leave. Off to the side of the platform, I gently bent over and kissed Mary on the cheek. And the two younger boys, by this time Robert was too old to kiss, so I shook his hand. Turning, I was about to step on the train when I realized, not expecting it, that it seemed the whole town of Springfield had come out to see me off. I had not prepared something in particular, but felt obligated to say something. Removing my hat, every other gentleman in the crowd also removed his. Friends, no one not in my position can appreciate the sadness I feel at this parting. To this people I owe all that I am. Here I have lived more than a quarter of a century. Here my children were born, and here one of them lies buried. I know not how soon I shall see you again. A duty devolves upon me which is perhaps greater than has devolved upon any man since the days of Washington. He never could have succeeded without the aid of divine providence upon which he relied at all times. And I feel that I cannot succeed without the same divine aid that sustained him. And I hope that you, my friends, will pray that I may receive that divine aid, without which I cannot succeed, but with which success is certain. Again, I bid you farewell. Turning, I stepped on the train, not realizing it was the last time I would ever walk in Springfield. March 4th, 1861. I took the oath of office as the 16th President of the Union. Already 7 states had withdrawn from the Union. April 12th, Confederate soldiers fired upon Fort Sumter just off the coast of South Carolina. Civil War had begun. What was thought to take days stretched into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years, and the weight and the burden of the Civil War rested on my shoulders as Commander-in-Chief. The devastation of war. Any war is tragic, but Civil War even more so. And there were cases in our own in which the full fury of Lee's attack had been directed against the line, against Major Houghton, a mere boy of 20 years, where pitted all the science and strategic knowledge of General John P. Gordon of Georgia. Help came at last, the gray men were beaten back, and Lee's desperate move was checked. Houghton's leg was amputated just below the hip, and he was taken to the little hospital at City Point, where he could die in comparative peace on a clean white cot. But for days he lingered on the borderline of life. It seemed to those who watched in long stretches of the night when life and resistance were at low ebb, he was zigzagging back and forth across and across that mysterious line. Yet each morning when friends would inquire of news of him, the doctors would say, "He's alive." That's all. At 9 o'clock one morning, the door at the end of the ward opened, and Dr. McDonald, chief surgeon, called out, "Attention! The President of the United States!" There, outside the door, with sunlight streaming over square gaunt shoulders, stood the President. I stepped through the door, bending my awkward frame, for the door was low. At cot after cot, I paused to say a word of cheer, a message of comfort to a wounded soldier. At Houghton's cot, we paused. "This is the man," whispered MacDonald. "So young. This the man that held Fort Haskell?" I motioned for a chair. Silently, a nurse placed one beside the cot. Houghton he could not know that I was there. As though it would clatter and hurt the sufferer, I took my hat off and placed it softly on the floor. Reaching over, I took his wasted, colorless hands into my hands of iron strength. Just a suspicion of pressure, but Houghton opened his eyes. A smile which had forgotten suffering answered my sad smile. "I have heard of your bravery and courage while standing in battle. I am proud